right now we have Luca, correct?
Yes.
And then you're seeing what you believe is fear aggressive issues.
Yes.
Okay, people entering the home.
Yes, definitely people entering the home. And
Okay.
he's had issues at the vet recently. They're
Who-
not letting us come in because of COVID. Like I couldn't go with
Yeah.
him. So yeah.
When did you start to see the territorial the issues in the home?
I think once he started to get a little bigger, I mean, we got him when he was like 2-3 months, and he's always been really scared of people in general. Like that was a thing from the beginning. But then kind of once he started getting bigger and more like, you know, familiar with the house, I guess it's kind of been from the beginning that he was just would bark at people that were coming in. And we had one person, I just moved actually, and I live by myself now, but I lived with my family. And we had my mom's husband, he just never got comfortable with, like would bark every time he came in. And we tried like everything, like getting him to sit with him and, you know, give him treats when he was being good and everything. He just like never got comfortable with him. And I don't know what it is.
What is your mother's husband's energy like? Is he a very loud person or is he a quiet person?
He can be loud. He's a bigger guy. So I don't know. I know he does tend to be a little bit like more scared of males, but he's mostly scared of people in general.
How is he tall?
Yeah.
How tall?
My mom's husband, he's like, I don't know, over 6 feet. I'm not sure.
Okay. So we know he's more timid around men.
Yeah.
The fact that he never got used to your mom's husband makes to me sense.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, is he a loud person? And then I was like, is he a tall person? Right? Because like from so far what I'm hearing, I think you have a nervous dog, not so much a fear dog.
Okay.
They look similar, but they're different.
Okay.
Like fearful dogs, like won't shut up.
Okay.
Okay, they'll just keep barking and barking, and if you move, they'll try to run away, right? And they just kind of keep barking.
Yeah.
Whereas nervous dogs, like let's say everything calmed down, and then like somebody moved, like you know your mom's husband, would he start barking again?
Yes, sometimes. I mean, he definitely like will stand at attention and sometimes start barking again if he like makes a sudden movement or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, that's more of a nervous tendency.
Okay.
And then obviously how big Luca? He seems like a smaller dog.
I mean, I think he's small for his breed, but he's probably like 45 pounds.
Yeah, he's like a medium-sized dog.
Yeah.
You know, and he's low to the ground. So the fact that he's over your mom's husband's over 6 feet, like, imagine him like being right here to you, you know, and you're like just looking up, how uncomfortable that would feel. That's the same thing for the dog.
Right.
Okay, so those things make sense to me. Okay. So, and you said you noticed this behavior, at least the nervous fearfulness around even at 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, like when we got him, he was already, they also did tell us like he's always had a mouthing problem. Like that's something they told us when we got him. And he's always been scared, like never really wanted, you know, new people to pet him or get close or anything like that. He's kind of always been that way. And then, like at the vet recently, she said that he always is kind of mouthy. He hasn't really bitten anyone, but at the vet recently, she did say that he was trying to bite at them when they were trying to look in his ears and stuff.
When's the last time he was at the vet?
It was last week. This is when this happened. He has an ear infection, so he had to go. And that's the first time he's been since, like, without me, like since COVID, when he had to go in without me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the last time before then?
The last time before that was kind of a while ago. He was still smaller, and he did fine then. Like, he would go with her. He got his nails clipped. He, like, let her take him and everything. So that was her concern, was that he's worse now, basically, I think.
How old is he now?
He's a year.
Okay. Okay. So this was when he was a puppy.
Yeah.
All right. No, that makes sense. And you also have to account for that he has an ear infection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, he's uncomfortable and he's going to be more defensive because of that discomfort.
Yeah.
Okay. That to me doesn't strike me as out the ordinary.
Okay. Yeah. She told me that it was so rare for dogs to act the way he did. So she was like very concerned. But
in her experience, because that's where I talk from and that's where she's talking from.
Yeah.
But it's not for me, and I may be biased because I deal with dogs like Luca regularly.
Yeah.
That's most of my clientele.
Right.
So obviously my outlook on dogs and their behavior is going to be on that pool of dogs. Whereas if someone who always deals with friendly dogs is going to have a different outlook.
Right. Right.
So because the main thing here is, when she handled him a year ago, he was a puppy. He didn't have any real confidence. He hadn't practiced this behavior for so long. And then you fast forward a year, and there's been all these things that have been mishandled, just because you don't know how to handle it. And it creates what seems to be worse. But I look at it and I'm like, well, that makes complete sense.
Right.
So at the vet, getting worse, but it's been a year since he's been to the vet.
Yeah, several months at least.
Several months? Yeah. Okay. And I'm assuming with COVID and stuff, he was probably more withdrawn with like people not coming over.
Yeah, that was kind of hard because initially when we got him, he was a puppy and we did have people, stop it, come on. We did have people come over and we tried to get him more comfortable, and then obviously COVID happened and there wasn't people coming over and things like that. So he probably didn't get as socialized as he could have or would have otherwise.
Yeah. And that's been a very common thing since COVID. Okay. You're not the only person. In your case, like there was already issues there because you saw it at 2 to 3 months.
Right.
I have clients whose dogs were completely friendly with people. Okay. And pre-COVID, and then after COVID, now they're being very territorial.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So for us, it's like, why? But you understand why no one's coming over.
Right.
For the dog, it becomes the norm.
Right.
Okay. So, like, do you ever take the CTA train? Or have you ever?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So like, let's say you go on the train and there's like a couple of seats empty, right? And you're sitting down and one seat is next to you, and someone sits down, like that doesn't really strike us as odd, right? Because there's only a few seats and one happens to be here.
Right.
So now let's say you're on the train and there's many seats open and there's a few other people, but like 30 seats are open and a person decides to sit right next to you. Feels awkward, right? Yeah, because you're like, there's 30 seats here, man. Like, why you gotta sit here, right?
Right.
Because, and the way you feel about it changes because of what's going on within the train, right?
Right.
So that's the dog. So for the dog, if, people coming over regularly is the norm, then that's just the norm. But then when you don't have that for months, that becomes the new norm.
Right.
Because the dog is not aware there's a pandemic and this is why we don't have people come over. Okay. So again, that doesn't strike me as out the ordinary. Anything else about Luca that I should know about?
I think those are the main things. I mean, also, very, my fault. We didn't go to like training classes initially either. So he hasn't had like even basic training, to be honest. So, he's very hyperactive sometimes, like right now. Sometimes he can be very calm, but he knows the basics, but he's also, could definitely use some obedience kind of stuff too.
Okay. All right, so I know we have the people thing. I think I read that outside he's okay.
Yeah, on walks, honestly, he's been fine. Like he's scared of people. Like won't go near anybody, but he doesn't like lunge at people, or he doesn't bark at people, or get aggressive towards other dogs or anything like that.
Okay, so no reactivity.
Really not on walks, other than just getting scared if people do try and come too close. He'll kind of back off and
Has he ever growled with that, like outside?
No, not outside. It's really like when people come close to the house that he gets like that.
Okay. What do you walk him on? A harness or a prong collar or a flat collar?
Harness. Yeah.
All right. If you could have what you wanted with Luca here, and this includes obedience, or like, you know, like if you could live your life with Luca how you wanted, what would that look like?
I mean, I would like to be able to obviously, sorry, he's going crazy right now. I don't know why. I mean, I'd like to be able to have like, just kind of live normally, like have people come over without being nervous about him or things like that. And just have him feel more calm too. Cause I think, I mean, I definitely noticed that he's very anxious. And yeah, I mean, just not have him be, I guess, so wary of everyone, like being able to live with other people more comfortably.
Okay. So that's the behavior stuff. What about like, I mean, would it be, you know, I would go hiking with him and I would, you know, take him camping and I would go to a restaurant and have him with me if he would like not move for.
I mean, all of that stuff would be ideal too. We did take him on a trip, like he loves to go on walks. So we did take him on a trip recently did some hiking with him. It again would be great to not have to worry about like running into other people, just because on like small trails and everything, he gets very scared if we're like passing people really closely or things like that.
Yeah.
And then it'd be great to like have him be able to sit at a restaurant or something like that outside. That'd be great too.
Okay. All right. Just trying to get a feel for what you're needing.
Yeah.
Before reaching out, did you happen to do research on me and my business?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think I was kind of looking for like dog trainers in Chicago, and I just found your website as one of the top links that was recommended. So, and I looked through the website a little bit, not too in depth.
Okay. Are you aware of how we train?
A little bit. I mean, I saw that you use like the e-collars and everything like that. I did see that.
Okay. Just making sure, because sometimes people fill out the form and they don't read.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I use this. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it's on the website. So,
yeah.
Okay.
No, I did read through all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll educate you. That's what this is for. Okay. And I'll give you the process of how this would work.
Okay.
And what you can expect at minimum and what you can expect at maximum. Okay.
Okay.
So this way you can make a educated decision.
Sounds good.
So I train using primarily e-collar.
Okay.
And I use prong collar on occasion. More so like if the owner needs more leverage. So like I had a client, she was probably like 90 pounds and her dog was 150-pound Great Dane.
Gosh, okay.
So obviously there was a size differential there, right? So he had the e-collar with the prong collar because she needed something like in case, because he was dog reactive. So if she turned a corner and there was a dog, like she's gonna need something to like be able to control the situation as quickly as possible while she tries to dial him down, okay? So I mainly use e-collar for a number of reasons. One, it gives us off-leash control right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's the only tool that guarantees you off-leash control. Right. It's non-confrontational, which means the dog doesn't know where it's coming from. So like with the prong collar, especially with a case like yours, because he's a nervous fear case, let's say he's barking or lunging at me because he's scared. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he doesn't want to hurt me. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's just like, I'm scared of you and I'm going to act tough to keep you at bay. Okay. Right. So if you correct him with the prong collar, he sees you yanking that leash. Okay. Now remember, in his mind, even though I paid for this guy to come and train you, you know that he doesn't. Okay. Right. So in his mind, he's going, I don't know you. I think you're a threat. I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to protect my mom. I'm going to do this. And you correct him. In his mind, it doesn't make sense because he thinks there's threat. Okay. So prong collars are great tools, but for me, in certain cases, it's confusing for the dog. It's too confrontational. Sometimes it can be overly confrontational for like weaker personalities. With the e-collar, he doesn't know where it's coming from.
Right.
Okay, so you can correct the behavior and stop it, but he doesn't see it from you. He thinks it's more so him that's causing it to happen because it's not coming from me. It's not coming from you, right? Now, let's say if he's being aggressive towards me and I correct him with the prong collar, well, now I just confirm for him that I am a threat, right? Because I'm actually physically yanking him now. Right. And he's like, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. You're going to hurt me and you are hurting me. Now I'm more scared of you.
Right,
okay?
right.
So that's my theory, okay? Because there's plenty of trainers that do use them. I don't like it because for me, it doesn't make sense for the dog, okay?
Yeah.
E-collar, he does not know where it's coming from.
Sure.
So are you familiar with what an e-collar is?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, I know a little bit, but
yeah. Sure. Have you ever been to a chiropractor or a physical therapist?
Yes.
Have you ever had stim?
Yes.
That's an e-collar.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a muscle contraction.
Okay.
So at the physical therapist or whatever, you would go in, they would put the probes on you, right? And then they would tell us when it becomes too much. And they would turn it up. And then eventually you say, that's too much, and they would lower it, right? And they would let the machine do its work, right? Very similar with dog training, okay? We start low, we work our way up. So your case, there's a couple of ways of approaching this, okay? One is we have direct and indirect, and yours is going to be a blend of both approaches, okay? And I'm going to explain all this for you. Let's say I have a dog that lunges and barks at other dogs, okay? That's dog reactivity or leash reactivity. Mm-hmm. People typically think that I come in and we punish the dog for being reactive, okay? And I'm not saying that's not an approach. It is an approach, but it's not the first approach, okay? The first thing I do with the dog that's leash reactive is I teach him how to walk correctly, okay? I teach him how to heel, and I have a very strict heel. It's very disciplined, and we teach it with e-collar, okay? And that's our foundation to get to the reactivity. So the problem's over here, right? Lunging and barking, and I'm going, I know that, and I could correct the dog for that, but instead, I'm going to teach the dog how to walk in a very calm, focused fashion. And we're going to see how does that affect this behavior. So it's indirectly affecting the reactivity. Right. Okay. In some cases, we teach the heel, this goes away. Mm-hmm. Okay. In other cases, we teach the heel and like 60% goes away, but we have 40% left. Mm-hmm. Okay. But it still accomplished something, right? And we build on that. In other cases, it does nothing. Okay. But we need to have this first before we can target this because the dog isn't meant to have the neck contracted. Mm-hmm. Okay. Dogs don't remote collar each other. They bite each other. Okay. Sure. But that's what makes e-collar effective is I refer to it as a bite on a button. Okay. So I'm disciplining the dog. I'm teaching them what turns the e-collar on and how to turn it off. So when we go to the behavior aspect of it, if this has not gotten better, the dog has a concept of what to do and a reference point of like, oh, I'm supposed to be over here to my owner, but then also understands or has a concept of why this is happening and associating how to turn it off with, if I just don't lunge and bark, nothing happens. Okay. So the indirect approach is I teach the heel is what we call it. And it's not the heel, it's the discipline behind the heel. It's the muscle, it's the biting the dog and correcting them for things that affects the reactivity. Okay. Right. Direct approach would be, okay, your dog is being reactive. Now I'm going to provide consequence for the behavior itself. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have two approaches there. Your case is a blend of both. Okay, so we would start with the heel to teach Luca how the e-collar turns on and how it turns off. Okay, this is what's going to help him walk past people when he gets scared. Okay, because that's another part of it. So for him, his brain cannot help perceive threat. Okay. So if you're walking on the trail, for example, and when you said like you said, I believe you said on the trail, he was more scared of people, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Than he would be like in the city?
Yeah, just because the trails were kind of narrow and he didn't really have anywhere to go at points.
Sure. And then also like here in the city, he's kind of flooded.
Yeah.
Because you can't avoid people.
Yeah.
So we're already kind of, remember that train concept, right? So the city is kind of a packed train and the trail is that empty train.
Right.
You see that? So the heel, because he's perceiving threat, but now the way he's going to have to rationalize, I call it like doing math, is if he breaks from you, okay, there's going to be physical consequence with the e-collar for breaking this position from flight or whatever, okay? That's real. The threat of someone coming is just a thought, okay? It's not concrete. So now Luca has to think, do I leave mom's leg and risk this, or do I just keep going and deal with this and see what happens?
Right.
Does that make sense? So now, so it's like, what's worse? And obviously this is worse because he can feel this. This is real.
Right.
So what happens is you'll see the dog go under conflict, and then ideally they make the right decision. Nothing happens. And he goes, oh, nothing happened. There was no e-collar, and the person walked past me. Nothing happened.
Right.
We build the confidence that way. Okay. And then we just keep repeating that. So like, I get dogs that like, you know, like on a busy street, like let's say Halstead or Western or Ashland, where there's a lot of cars, where they'll have a similar behavior to Luca's, but with vehicles. Okay. And the owner will say, Jesse, like I was walking my dog in, you know, for like the last 3 months and it doesn't get better. I'm like, yeah, because there's nothing to help the dog keep its mind straight. It just keeps panicking. Okay. But once we teach the dog how to settle and how to keep their mind straight and how to focus, and then I say, now you walk up the street. And now the brain's processing, oh, there's nothing bad happening. Okay. But if he's allowed to spaz out, you're just reinforcing the behavior and you're not making things any better.
Right.
Because every time he practices that response, it becomes a part of who he is. So you have to teach him to counter himself. Okay. Now, I had actually a good example. I wish we would have recorded the first class because it was so good. This young lady lived out in like St. Charles or something. Like she's out in a suburb. Okay. Very calm, very quiet. And her dog was very nervous and anxious. And when she would go to the park, she was just constantly all over the place. Couldn't walk, scared of people, scared of everything. Okay. And they tried to do a prong collar and it didn't work. And she was going to move into the city at some point. So she found us. And the first time I saw her dog was a complete spaz, just everywhere. And we did the heel. Okay. I saw her the second class and her dog was sitting next to her. And when I would walk by, the dog would scoot behind her because the dog didn't want to give her back to me because I'm a threat. Okay. So then we started correcting her and making her sit still and take what we call pressure because it's uncomfortable for her because she's, you know, it's like if you were to, if a human sees a potential threat like a burglar or a robber or someone with a weapon, you become uncomfortable, okay, because you're perceiving that threat. It's the same thing for the dog, even though you know there's nothing wrong, okay? Is fast forward, she started training like January, February, and then COVID happened. And then I saw her again like June, July, because she moved to Lincoln Park and the dog was so much calmer. Okay. And we were at Oz Park, which is a very busy park in the city. And, you know, she still had a little bit of the nervousness, like with bikers and stuff, but from the complete spaz that she was, and her videos, the other videos are on the internet. Her name's Zyla, Xyla, if you want to see. Okay. And it would be a more recent video. Like, I think she had like 8 classes or something.
Okay.
And you hear me talk about like, wow, like this is such a huge change, right? And I told her the very same thing because her dog had issues with like busy streets and stuff. So even though she was out in like St. Charles or whatever, where it's much quieter, I said, use your environment to your advantage and start exposing your dog, because the city of Chicago is way busier than where you live now. Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I recently moved here. I lived in the suburbs with my family before this, so
yeah,
this has been rough for him a little bit too.
Yeah, and it's completely normal. I see this stuff happen all the time. I get a lot of people that move from, like, my dogs. My dogs are from Texas, very quiet town, 15 minutes from one side to the other. Okay, and then we moved to South Loop, Chicago. Okay, and my pit bull was so anxious, she didn't poop for 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was completely like, what the hell is going on, right?
Right.
And now she's balanced and she got over and everything. But it's super common for me where I'll have a client whose dog was great in the suburb, and they move to the city, and all of a sudden their dog or human reactive.
Right.
Because there's so much energy going on. Okay, so for Zyla, her owner, you know, I told her, like, just do what you can with what you have to prep you for the city of Chicago. And then I saw her actually just this past Saturday. She came to my pack walk, and she was even better, you know, because she settled her nerves down, and now she's able to perceive the world without being under stress, which is allowing her to relax and go like, oh, I don't have to always be worried about, you know, something bad happening. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So it's similar to for Luca, except so, like, you know, you would expose them. I would say, like, you know, and it's going to be a little bit difficult because winter's coming, but you know, dogs don't change their behavior because of the weather. He's not going to be like, oh, it's cold, so I'll give you a break and like behave better. Like, you still have to do stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? Is the first thing I would do with Luca is the heel. That's going to be 2 classes. Okay. The territorial behavior in the home is normal. I haven't exercised for that. That is typically a class, maybe 2 classes by itself. Okay. And what I do there is, you know, if you're going to have family or friends come over, Luca does not. Okay. So if you plan for, you know, your mom to come over at 6 and she like knocks on the door or whatever at like 5:30, your guess is that's probably my mom, right? Because it's close to 6. For Luca, who the hell is that? Okay. Because he doesn't know who's behind the door. Now, is Luca like good with your mom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my family.
Yeah. It was just her husband.
Yes, he's the only.
So what would happen is, when you open the door, he would be territorial first, then you open it, and then he would see your mom, and he'd go, oh, it's grandma, right? Because he recognizes who it is. But like, if it's someone he doesn't know or someone he's not comfortable with, he becomes territorial. You open the door, and he goes, who the hell is this? Okay. And what happens is he kicks into suspicion. Okay. Now, this sounds dumb, but this is just how dogs think. When you bring a person inside the home, he doesn't know that you're inviting him.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. He's just like, why are you letting the threat in? Okay?
Right.
So what happens is, you get the stressor of the knock. Who's that? You open the door. Who are you? Why are you coming into our house? Why are you trying to touch me? Right? And then the stressors start to stack. Okay. So what we do here is, I have an exercise where you're actively kind of communicating with Luca, telling him like, hey, thanks for letting me know someone's here, but you need to calm down and chill out. Okay. So that when you open the door, he's calm and not like barking or growling or anything like that, because you've shut down the territorial behavior. Okay. Yeah. The next part is where we start to get into the behavior part. Okay. So backing him off and shutting him down and making him calm doesn't mean he'll let the person touch him.
Right.
Okay? He's just going, okay, you're telling me to be quiet and chill out and not worry about this, fine. But I still don't want them to touch me. That's a totally different thing. Okay. So to get Luca over the fear of people, we have to do what he fears the most. which would be
around people.
What's that?
Be around people.
Being around people, but what's the worst thing that you think it is for him?
I mean, I'm being close. I'm touching him.
Touching him.
Yeah.
That's the epitome. That's the pinnacle. Okay. Is he goes, if they're not near his space, not a problem.
Yeah.
You get closer, problem, big problem. Okay. Yeah. Is we have to push this. We have to push the touch. Okay. So what I would expect to see then is he may panic. Some dogs like shriek, right? Because they're just like so under stress and fear. Some dogs will start to become aggressive and start biting. Some dogs will poop themselves or pee because of just the overload of stress.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens is, and this is why e-collar is so effective, is we have to push that if we're going to get them over people. Okay. Is if I go to touch him and I have a special suit that I wear, it's called a bite suit. So he can bite me, nothing's going to happen. Okay. I have my suit on. He has his leash on. I step on the leash and I trap him. Now he can't run away. So now he's going to be really freaked out. Then I start to touch him. Then he starts to freak out even more. And oh my God, you're touching me, back off. And he starts to bite. This doesn't mean he's an aggressive dog. He's going into self-preservation mode. Okay. Because he does not know that I'm a trainer that's coming to help him. Okay. Right. He just thinks like, hey, I have trust issues and I don't want people to touch me because I don't want to be hurt. Because in his world, it's kill or be killed. Okay. He doesn't understand that there's laws that protect us and all that stuff. He's all about, it's dog eat dog, essentially. So when I go to make contact with him and he's perceiving, threat and like, crap, I don't know if you're going to try to kill me or something. He's going to, try to save, himself.
Right.
So, but he's acting out of fear or nervousness. Okay. It's not because he's actively seeking to do harm. He's just panicking. Right. So if he does do that, we have the e-collar. Okay. Have you ever watched like in the movie when like someone's freaking out and they slap him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do they slap him?
Like refocuses them, I guess.
Just like, like break the mindset, break the whatever's going on. Right. So that e-collar is kind of like the slap in the face. Okay. But much more subtle. Okay. So I'm on the e-collar. He's throwing a panic attack and I'm tapping. He doesn't know where it's coming from until he calms down.
Right.
Okay. And then I touch him again. He freaks out. I keep promoting. He calms down. I touch him again. He doesn't do anything. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
So then the brain starts to think, oh, if I flip out, this happens, but you're not scared of me. You don't back away, but also you're not hurting me.
Right.
We keep repeating that. So then he thinks his actions are what caused the correction, not me. Right. Okay. So then the brain learns how to self-regulate. Okay. So he has to learn to take that pressure. Once we get this done, then we can start worrying about getting them to like warm up to people. Okay. So, but you have to do the worst, the thing that he fears the most, which is make contact with him. Okay. And then correct them to teach him aggression, if that's there, is not the solution. And eventually what you'll start to see is like, he won't be happy and he'll probably be like very shaky, panting, eyes wide open, right? Just under stress, but he's letting all that stuff out. Yeah. Okay. And I'm touching him, nothing bad's happening. And then I leave him alone for a bit. And then I come back and try again because the brain will reset and we keep repeating until eventually I go to touch him and he might go like this, but he doesn't freak out anymore.
Yeah. And
then they go, okay, we got the worst of it out. Now let's start working with people like friends and family that he doesn't or hasn't warmed up to. Okay. Yeah. Now, typically how it works is once we get the dog over the hump, let's say like for instance with your mom's husband, it's possible that he will actually start to accept him and do so very quickly because he's already seen him several times.
Right.
It's just he never got over the hump of distrust or nervousness because of his energy or his size.
Right.
So then what happens is his brain starts to be more logical and go like, oh, I've seen you 1,000 times, and I've already had the worst of the worst. No biggie. Okay. Right. Now, if he doesn't take to your mom's husband, it's most likely because of his energy or his size. Okay. And now I have exercises that we can do to absolutely, create a relationship there. But I can't make him like somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like for humans, like no one can make me like something.
Right. Sure.
Right. That's your opinion. Now, like growing up, I didn't like green peppers. As an adult now, I like green peppers.
Sure.
I don't know why that happened, but that just happened. I'm the one who decided that. Okay. Right. Same thing for Luca here. Right. Okay. So I absolutely have exercises to help him socialize, to open up that social bubble. I only really care about what's going to be realistic to you and Luca, which is your family, your friends. Okay. I don't care about people on the street. Now, the more you push, the more you're going to be able to achieve, but there's no guarantee there that it will happen. Okay. More often than not, people within the home, friends, family, people you see on a regular basis, that more often than not does happen. Okay. But the strangers, that like, oh, can I pet your dog? Yeah. I'd probably like, nah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like it. So why would I force him to do something that he doesn't like? Right.
Yeah.
Now, what I do expect is that if I'm out like at a restaurant with Luca, is that he's not like being a brat and like barking at people as they pass by.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. Okay. So I'm realistic in that approach. I have no problem with people that decide like I want to push as much as possible because it just means, we'll make more progress. Yeah. But in some cases, I'll tell the owner it's either too much of a liability or the dog really just doesn't like it. So I'm like, then why would you make your dog do something they don't like? And then they just kind of settle for like the home stuff and all that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Outside of that, so the variable here is going to be the touch sensitivity and the building trust with people. Okay. The reason why that's a variable is I don't know how long or how many classes it's going to take for me to get Luca to just be calm and accept the touch. Okay. It could be as quick as one class to the next, or it can be a handful of classes. Okay. It's a pretty straightforward process. It's just I can't, unfortunately because of COVID, like typically when I would do home visits, I would, in your case, I would come in with my suit because I had to test Luca. And I would say, I'm going to touch him. He's going to freak out. It's normal because I have to evaluate, is there any aggression there? Is there no aggression? Is he flipping out like to a 10? Is it a 2? That's what would allow me to give you a much more clearer answer. Okay. Because I don't know because you may have not seen aggression, like you've seen growling and stuff, correct?
Yeah.
But no one's pressed that boundary.
Right.
Okay. So like I have a case right now, very much the same as yours.
Yeah.
We did the 2 classes on the heel. And now we started doing the in-home stuff with my other trainer. And the dog is pretty bad. Yeah. Okay. But there was no way for me to know because I couldn't do the suit thing because of COVID.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, but we're working through it. Like, I told the owner, like, it's fine. Like, we jumped into it as soon as possible. So we still have time to work on it and all that. And we're making progress, but the dog is pretty intense. Okay. So we won't know that until we actually start pressing Luca.
Yeah.
Okay. And things can look bad. It's just how it works. But it's more often than a pretty straightforward process because of the e-collar. Okay. So the way I would go about this is if you're concerned, would you like, I really just want to tackle the behavior stuff, or is it like, I want to tackle the behavior stuff and also have control over my dog?
definitely that. I'd rather, yeah, tackle the behavior and have control.
And have control. Okay.
Yeah.
So what dictates length of time and stuff and cost is what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a 3, 6, 9, and 12-week program or programs. You're in the range of 6 to 12. Okay. If you would have told me I just want to get the behavior under control, then I would say I would opt for the 6-week. Okay. Because I'm thinking 2 classes for the leash walking for the foundation, 1 class on the territorial behavior with the door and stuff. And that leaves us 3 classes to push the behavior of being touched and seeing how he takes to it. Okay. Right. And like, let's say we got that done in a class, which can happen. Then I go, awesome. You know, you're going to keep doing this. And then we also want a muzzle condition, by the way, super important, because it'll help the people, it'll help you feel relaxed. Because you're not worried about, well, what happens if he bites? Because if he does, nothing's going to happen. He's got the muzzle. But it helps your guests and your family feel at ease and more likely to help you because they know nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Okay? So that would, you know, that's what I would plan for with the 6-week. I go, you know what, since this is an unknown, I'm going to give myself 3 classes to work on something in case it's going to need more time. Okay. Right. The 9-week program for you, I would expect to achieve the leash walking, the territorial behavior. We'll touch on the behavior stuff, like the territorial, the touching and everything. And then I'd most likely push to like the recall, which is come when called, because that's the most important command. Okay. Yeah. So we need heel for the behavior stuff. So it's important in that degree, but come when called is important in case your dog ever gets off leash or something, especially if they're a flighty dog. You want to know that you can make them come back. Okay. Right. And then the 12-week program would be, you know, everything plus more. Like, so for instance, going to a restaurant and having them be at your feet and not moving and not being a nuisance to anybody would be in that program. Okay. So the more time we have, obviously, the more we're able to push things. So like we would do 2 classes on heel. If let's say if you did the 12-week, we would do two classes on heel. In the 3rd class, I jump right into the touch. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I'm thinking I have 9 classes to work on this, 10 classes. Okay, so what we do is we start that process, and then depending on like if it needs more work, the beginning of every class we would start with the touch stuff, and then end with obedience stuff. Okay. Okay, but I have like a bunch of time to like just work on it slowly. And then once we get to a point where I go, hey, he's good, now to a point where you can do this with your family and friends that are coming over that he's not too sure about. And then you start doing that on your own. And then as we progress, I just check in and go, how's it going? You're like, you know what, Jesse, my mom and her husband came over and he was kind of nervous at first, but then he relaxed and he actually went over to him and laid on his lap. And I go, perfect. Okay. And then we just keep building on that stuff. Okay. So behavior is all about time, because we're trying to, this is genetics for your dog. This is just how he's wired. Yeah. Okay. So we have to like reprogram him, and I cannot make Luca unnervous or unfearful. Right. Okay. That's just how he is. That's how he perceives the world. But we can teach him how to handle it better and how to overcome those things. But you'll most likely still see kind of a tentative dog in the beginning, but who will like come out of it much more quickly, and that you'll have means of control to like kind of force him to like do things that he's kind of apprehensive about. Right. Okay. Question so far?
I don't think so. I guess in terms of like the length of classes, is that something that 100% is decided ahead of time, how many classes you're doing, or is it something that's a little bit flexible?
So the way it works is like, let's say you do 6 classes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is on my calendar, you would get a time with, Maria would set up a time, unless you have like a rotating schedule or something. But like, let's say, you know, Fridays at 4 o'clock was free and you're available. every Friday at 4 o'clock for 6 weeks plus one, so 7 weeks. That's your time.
Okay.
And no one can take it from you. It's for an hour a week. And then let's say you start off with 6 just to see how it works. Mm-hmm. And then you like what you see, and you're like, wow, this is going really well. I want to extend my program. Mm-hmm. Well, to keep my schedule, my calendar running, the reason why we do the priority is my schedule will get backed up if we keep trying to hold the time for you.
Right.
Okay. So we know, like, hey, this is your time for 7 weeks. So if we have other people that are trying to book and they want that time, we book them after you. Okay. Right. So then if you end up wanting to extend, if someone's already booked it, then Maria will just tell you, like, okay, well, that time is taken, but there are other times that will be available, and then you would just shift. Okay. It's cheaper if you book in advance. So like if you do 12 classes or whatever, it's a cheaper rate because you're already telling us, like, I'm in it for the long haul. And we go, okay, so as an incentive, it's less money. If you do 6 and then another 6, you're paying for a 6-week program to another 6-week program. Sure. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive.
Right.
Okay. Because of how we work with my schedule. Yeah. I personally don't care.
Yeah.
That's why I give people options. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, what's important to you? And this is what you can achieve: minimum, maximum, length of time, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the biggest variable, aside from Luca's behavior, is you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're pushing something difficult, it can look, like I said, ugly. It's not pretty. Okay. Right. For some owners, it's hard. You know, and they're like, Jesse, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, well, that's how we had that consultation. Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I lay it out. You know, your dog might vomit. Your dog might poop. Your dog might freak out and try to attack me. You know, the dog that I told you about earlier, Mia, she bit herself. She started bleeding pretty bad. Okay. But the owner was like, I get it, you know, but this is like, no one can come over. And the dog is like legit. That's why she's bleeding. And he's like, I get it, you know, so we just cut it a little bit early. So, cause, you know, we couldn't do much because we know she was going to keep biting, whatever, but we made good progress. Yeah. So if it's like, if we start it and you're like, yeah, no, I can't do that, then I go, okay, well, this is always going to be a problem, but there are workarounds, you know, so like that muzzle, we want a muzzle condition or whatever, because it just makes you feel better, it makes your guests feel better. And I would use a different approach where I'm like, look, this doesn't fix the problem, okay, but you have control over your dog. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because obedience, so like, let's say Luca like was charging at people coming into the home, right? The door exercise should stop that problem. But then maybe he didn't like, you know, people walking around the house and stuff, and he would follow them and everything. Well, if I tell him to lay down and not move for the next 3 hours, now we're not going to get that problem anymore. Okay. So obedience gives you control, but it doesn't help the problem. The behavior part of it is because I'm trying to get Luca to open up and be with new people or people he's not comfortable with, like he would be with you. I'm trying to make him that comfortable. Okay. So that's the difference between the two. So it's either you focus on the behavior, and then if it comes to a point where like, Jesse, you can't do this, then I would say, okay, well then this is the other approach, but just know that this is still a problem. Or you do the behavior and the control. So now you have both, because life isn't black and white. You know, sometimes an approach that I teach won't be appropriate or won't be the best solution for a particular time, but the owner goes, it's okay because Jesse taught me other stuff. And now you have options so that you can acclimate to the specific situation. Right. Okay. So I personally don't care what program you choose, because you're somewhere in that 6 to 12 week range. Okay. If you know you want the behavior plus the control, you're in the 12. Okay. If you know, and like I suggest if you do 9, I suggest recall. But if you're like, no, he would never be off the leash or whatever, and you want stationary control, like going to a patio and not having him move, then we would just switch what we teach. Okay. My recommendation is recall, because what happens if the dog gets off leash? But ultimately, you're the one that dictates. You know, I would just say, like, these things have to happen for the behavior. You tell me what you want to do for the rest of the program. Okay. And then the 6th week would be, this is absolutely bare bones what you're going to need for the behavioral work. And we focus on that and we isolate that. And then if we end up making great progress and there's classes to teach other stuff, I have no problem teaching other stuff.
Right.
Okay. I just don't know how he's going to progress.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Questions?
I don't think so. I guess. Yeah. I mean, I guess I definitely would be interested in doing one of the longer, like 12-week kind of things, because I kind of do want both those areas covered.
Sure. So because of COVID, it's changed how we operate. Yeah. That's why we're doing this, right? So I used to be strictly home to home. Now, you're in the city?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I used to be strictly home to home. But now with COVID, you know, because I have as many as 8 clients a day, you know, if I go to one client in the morning and then they happen to have it, now I'm seeing 7 other people, you know, like it's been kind of like trying to figure out how we work with this, right? Yeah. Is we started training in Oz Park. Are you familiar with Oz?
No.
It's in Lincoln Park. Okay. The reason why I chose Oz is because it's the busiest park in Chicago. Like dogs, off-leash dogs, skateboarders, rollerbladers, parties. There was jazz bands, like everything you could imagine was there. Now with fall coming in, now it's not as busy. But essentially, we're out in public in a realistic environment. Excuse me.
Right.
So for the training for the owner, right off the bat, they're getting realistic experience. Okay. Yeah. So it's either been at Oz Park, and then just recently, because I know with the change in behavior, and weather, it might be too cold to train at Oz Park. So in that case, we train here at my facility. I have a 13,000 square foot facility. My training floor is about 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. So it's very nice, big open space, you know, and I also have like a training room. So if we do like the touch sensitivity, like, you know, we have stuff that we can do, or like an alternate approach or location. And then, you know, we just put our masks on, we have hand sanitizer here and stuff like that. So that's another option as well for like the cold days. What's nice is that aside, the behavior stuff is really just learning how to do that. Location doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah. The obedience stuff is where location kind of matters, because it's nice to practice with like everything going on so that you learn in a realistic context. But it doesn't really matter where you train because of e-collar. Okay. So my e-collars go 0 to 127. So let's say Luca's number at my facility is like 25 for the obedience, and he's perfect. Okay. Obviously, my facility is very different than the real world. So if he's not listening in the neighborhood, then all you need to do is raise the number 30, 35, 40, 45, 47, right? You just need to make the obedience meaningful to him, and you do so through power. Okay. So once you learn how to do it, it's just a matter of what is my dog going to need in order to listen in this environment. Okay. Right. So it's straightforward. What keeps people back is they don't like going higher in the number because they feel bad. Okay. It's super common. And eventually they get frustrated because the dog's not listening and all that stuff, that they finally go higher and they're like, oh, like it wasn't that bad. I'm like, nope, told you. Because dogs bite each other. Okay. Right. And you know, it's not going to kill them. It's just a muscle contraction. But the physicality also toughens them up, teaches them how to handle stress, you know, teaches them that there's scarier things than like a person approaching them. And that's how we build him up in order to be able to handle like just life and like people coming over and stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, we have a couple options there. If you wanted in-home where I would travel to you, I have very limited availability because like I said, I'm training mostly out of Oz or my facility. So now to pull me away from here is more time and work. Sure. Okay. And then, you know, it's completely up to you. That's more so if the person wants it. So I'm doing in-home again. It's just at a higher rate.
Okay.
Let me think here. Questions so far?
I don't think so. Nothing specific that I can think of right now. Yeah.
So the most common question I get is, when does the e-collar go away?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. In my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what that means is, if you're out with Luca on a walk, he's got his collar on.
Yeah.
Okay. If he's going to be off leash, got the collar on. Going to be at a restaurant, got the collar on. Okay. But you're not always using it.
Right.
Okay. Do you drive?
Yeah.
Do you go on the expressway?
Yep.
Do you go to the speed limit?
No, not always.
Right. Most people don't.
Right.
Why?
I mean, if you can go faster, I don't know.
Yeah. It's opportunistic behavior.
Right.
Okay. If you can get away with something without consequence, why not?
Right.
Okay. So the most common one is just speeding. You know, whenever I ask that question to people, like 95% don't go the speed limit. In fact, we get mad at people who go the speed limit.
Yeah.
So, but if there's a cop car, what happens?
Slow down.
Slow down. Okay, so think of that e-collar as a cop on a collar. Mm-hmm. Okay, when he has it on, he's going to behave better. Okay, a lot of my clients with these dogs with these particular issues will say, Jesse, you know, my dog is so nervous, but I put the e-collar on him and calms down. Yeah. Okay, it just helps them settle. It helps them just like regulate because they know threat of consequence, right? Now, a human can proactively change something and decide to keep that. Dogs don't do that. Okay, humans are both reactive and proactive. I can decide one day, I want to learn how to play guitar, and go on Google, find a guitar teacher, buy a guitar, go to the lesson, and practice by choice. Okay, dogs don't do that. Dogs are reactive. Right. They respond to what's going on within the environment. So like if he's got the collar on, he's going to respond or react accordingly. If he does have the collar on, he's going to think, I can get away with stuff, so I'm going to do this instead. Okay. Right. So it's not because I'm not a good trainer. It's not because of the training methods. Not even humans do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you'll read stuff on it like, oh, you know, e-collar, like dogs won't listen without the e-collar or blah, 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 blah. I'm like, humans don't listen without cops. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's BS because they don't like the training method is what it is. Okay. Right. So in the home, if he's a good dog, you don't need it. Okay. In the beginning, when you're doing all the training and people coming over and family and stuff like that, you might find you need it in the beginning, and then gradually he doesn't need it because you get him over things. Mm-hmm. In some cases, when the owner will have guests come over, the dog will be collared up for like the first 15 minutes, but then everything's done, they'll take the collar off, the dog's fine. Yeah. Okay. But the trigger of like the knocking and the doorbell is when they need it. But once that's all said and done, then they're like, okay, cool, the dog's great now. We don't need it anymore. We take it off. Right. Okay. So it can work any number of ways. I don't know. Okay. That's why I tell you, you know, minimum, maximum. Yeah. So then you go like, okay, I'm good with just the minimum. Then if you're good with this, then obviously if we get more, you're going to be even happier. Yeah. Okay. So that's just something to think about. In terms of the collar he would need, you said he's 45 pounds?
Yeah, around there, 45 to 50, I think, somewhere in there.
Okay. When he gets kind of nervous and stuff, on a scale of 1 to 10, like how would you rate him, with 10 being the highest?
In terms of like how crazy he gets, is that, I don't know, maybe like a 6 or 7.
Okay. So you have a couple of choices for the e-collar. Yeah. One is meant for 70-pound dogs and under. Okay. It's the dogs are 2300. Maria will send you the info. Okay. It runs about $287 with tax. Okay. The next one is supposed to be a higher powered collar.
Okay.
It's called it's the Dogtra 1900S Black Edition, which we'll send you the info for. And that one is the highest power collar, okay, that I believe they have at the moment, because they discontinued a different model that they had.
Okay.
So the reason why I say the higher powered one is we have physical toughness, because dogs bite each other.
Yeah.
So that's one factor. And then we have emotional distress.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have a physically tough dog, plus he's under stress, you're gonna need more to cut through, okay?
Yeah.
There's also the possibility that he's a sensitive dog and you don't need the power, but I don't know. We learn this as we go along, okay? The 1900 is actually not that much more expensive. It's maybe like I think a $40 difference. So if you rather just think like, so all it means is on the higher powered model, your number would be lower than on the lower power model. Right? Because you have more output.
Right.
So then 30 on one might be like 50 on the other.
Right.
Okay, so it just gives you a little bit more wiggle room. So that's really the difference. But it's personal preference, because he's at 45 pounds, so he's not too big of a dog. You know, if he was at 70 pounds or whatever, I'd tell you like you want to opt for the higher powered one. So it's really just personal preference there.
Okay.
And then Maria will get in contact with you, and she'll send you a breakdown of the program, the pricings and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then she'll send you the info for the e-collars, and then she'll also send you a contract form, and she'll coordinate with you the scheduling and the accounting and all that other stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Trying to think here if there's anything I forgot. I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, we have a case like this right now. Actually, I have two cases like this right now.
Okay.
Okay. And what we would most likely do once we get to the touching aspect of the program is we probably just switch to my facility, so we don't have to worry about the general public, because the other dog I didn't think was going to be that bad. Turned out to be that pretty bad. Okay. And not like in the aggression, but she was just very vocal, like shrieking. And I'm like, great. Now people are like, what the hell is this guy doing to this dog? And it wasn't the e-collar. It was the fact that when I went to touch her, she was freaking out.
Right.
Okay. So that we can do that here. And then if that's all going well and stuff, then, you know, if you want to work out in the, you know, the park, whatever, we would continue there. But just keep in mind, you know, we'll be there for an hour when it gets colder. We also want to account for the dog. I have a couple of dogs now that cannot handle the weather. So the owners are going to switch over to the facility because it's too cold for them to train outside.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any questions?
I don't, not that I can think of at the moment. Yeah. I don't think so.
If you want to get an idea of how we work and everything, you know, just go to our YouTube channel, watch the videos. Lesson ones are always great to watch because no one knows what they're doing but me. Okay. And I have a playlist called, it's either dog training or client highlights. Okay. I suggest you go to that playlist, and that playlist is smaller videos or shorter videos. Some of them are clients that I worked with, and I talk about the process, and I show before and after, and I explain the process and why it works, so that you can just learn more of like how, like the approach and the psychology behind it, but then also seeing like the turnaround of the dogs and we're like, wow, like it really did work for them. Okay. Otherwise, if you have any other questions, you can let us know. But Maria will be in touch with you, and then we'll just take it from there. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Christy. It was a pleasure talking to you. You have a good night, okay?
You too. Thank you.